Yes, my people, what's happening? Welcome back to Harry Talks Tottenham, where it's literally just Harry talking about Tottenham. The podcast where the passion meets the pitch. So strap yourselves in, make sure to get yourself a drink and some popcorn. Without further ado, let's get on to today's video. Today I have gone with something quite different, to be fair, than what we usually do. Today we are doing a keep, loan, sell Tottenham edition, which is, it pretty much explains itself. I've got all the current Tottenham squad here, not including the players who are out on loan, so just the current players who are at the club, and we're going to be deciding whether I think we should either keep them, send them out on loan, or sell them. Now, this is probably more likely for the summer window, as in January, obviously it's very hard to do any sort of business, but enough waffling from me, and let's get into the video. So, up first we have Guillermo Vicario, who, even though he has his ups and downs, gives mistakes away, he's still the Tottenham's number one. So I'm going to put him into keep. Now, Radu Dragusin's an interesting one, because yes, he's been out injured since January. However, I have seen other Tottenham platforms that said they'd loan him out or sell him. Now, with our depth at centre-back, when he comes back, obviously it's very good. You've got the likes of Romero, Van de Ven, Danso, Dragusin, Kota Takai, who can all play there. And we know that Thomas Frank likes to switch it up to a back three, although he's only done it twice. He started games twice this season doing it. So I'd actually keep Dragusin for the remainder of the season. Oh, not Danso. Dragusin, sorry. I'd keep him. And then obviously as he builds up his match fitness and stuff, it's a no-brainer to keep him. Now, Super Kevin Danso with a outrageous long throw. Pretty self-explanatory. Keep him. He's a solid backup to Romero and Van de Ven. Now, João Palhinha. Obviously, he is currently on loan at Tottenham right now. However, we do have a option to buy him, I believe. I'm not too sure exactly what it is, but I think it's roughly 20 to 30 or something like that. Now, he is 30, obviously. That shows his experience. However, the way Thomas Frank likes to play, he's a very solid 6. He's not afraid to put in a tackle and everything. He's got that goal-scoring ability on him as well. So I would sign him permanently in the summer, which would equal to a keep. Now, Xavi Simons, the star boy. Obviously, I'm not going to say loan him out or sell him. I would keep him. However, when the likes of James Maddison and Kulusevski come back, he'll obviously have to fight for his place again, much like they'll have to fight for their place. So it works two ways. However, obviously it is a no-brainer to keep Xavi Simons. Now, moving on to Yves Bissouma. I think this one's pretty obvious. Tried to sell him in the summer. The deal didn't quite go through. He hasn't got a future with Thomas Frank. Like, he was left out of the Super Cup squad. Although he's been injured, I honestly don't think he'll ever play for Tottenham again. So I'd sell Bissouma. Now, moving on to Richarlison. This is a really interesting one, Richarlison, because although he scores the goals and everything for Thomas Frank, he is very injury prone. However, touch wood, he hasn't gotten injured this season, and he won't, because obviously we're missing Dom Solanke, and Kolo Muani's been hit and miss with injuries this season. However, if everyone's back and fit, personally, I'd sell Richarlison and sign a new striker to replace him. So Richarlison goes into sell for me. Now, up next is James Maddison, this is another tough one, because although he is very crucial to the way we play, he is quite injury prone. Now, he's obviously had ankle injuries, calf injuries, knee injuries, and now his ACL injury. is it worth taking the risk of keeping him when obviously you've got the likes of Xavi Simons, Kulusevski, a Bergval, even a Papa Sarr who can play there, just for him to get injured again? Now, this is obviously very controversial, and James, I'm sorry if you're watching this, but in the summer, I would sell James Maddison, because it's probably better to cash in on him now whilst he's still in his prime, rather than letting him get more injuries. His value goes down, and then he's not really worth much, or we won't get at least somewhat of the money we spent on him. Now, Mathys Tel, I'd obviously keep him. Very bright future. The few times we have seen him in the Prems and Cups, obviously he's not registered in the Champions League squad. However, at the time of recording, there are reports that he has replaced Dom Solanke in the Champions League squad. Obviously, because Solanke's been injured for a very long time, we've got the option to use Mathys Tel to replace him, which I think is excellent, although we won't know if those reports are true or fake until obviously the team sheet comes out tonight against Slavia Prague. But Mathys Tel, he's young, he's got the fresh legs, he's got that goal-scoring ability, also links up really well with Odebear, so it's a no-brainer to keep him. Now, Destiny Udogie, obviously Tottenham's best left-back in my opinion. I'd keep him. However, it is bearing in mind he is very injury-prone, so it's probably worth signing a backup in order to support him. Now, Archie Gray, best player at the club. Keep him without a shadow of the doubt. Give him the captain's armband, build the team around him, start him every game, franchise player, whatever. I'd keep him. Lucas Bergval, exactly the same reason. In my opinion, based off who's fit at the moment, I think he's one of the best players, if not the best player at the club. Because always on form, always gives it for the badge, he's everywhere, he'll never stop, he'll never give up, offers just that extra something that a few of the others don't. So obviously Lucas Bergval, I'd keep him. Now, Captain Romero, best centre-back in the world according to Lionel Messi. It's a no-brainer. You keep him. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Like, there's no one that tops him. Now, Dom Solanke. This is another one because, in my opinion, he is Tottenham's best striker. He brings that pressing element, the hold-up and link-up play, the physicality, and obviously the goals that he scores. Obviously, I'm going to say keep him. However, if you know me personally, I was saying the whole of last season, got to get a backup for Dom Solanke. Got to get a backup. He's going to end up being run into the ground. Obviously, at the time, Richarlison was injured. And then what happened? He got injured. We didn't have a striker, which forced us to sign Tel, even though he rejected us in the first place. But Dom Solanke, obviously, I'd keep him. And I cannot wait to see you back, whenever that might be. Now, moving on to Kudus. Mohamed Kudus, the best winger in the league. Star boy, whatever you want to call him. Obviously, I'm going to keep him. At the moment, like I said with Bergval, he is probably the best player at the club. No, there's no explanation for it. In a world full of robotic wingers, watching Kudus week in, week out is like a breath of fresh air. He's got the link-up play, especially with Pedro Porro on that side. He can score the goals, although a few of them do get ruled for offside, so he needs to learn to stay onside. He's got the flair, never gets tired, and yeah, Mohamed Kudus, obviously, I'm going to keep you. Now, Dejan Kulusevski, one of my favourite players at the team. I'm going to put him into keep, and I'll tell you why. Genuinely, this guy, he creates everything. He'll link up with midfielders, link up with wingers, link up with strikers. He's got the vision that nobody else sees. His crossing abilities, like, out of this world. And from personal experience, he's one of the nicest people I've ever met. But, obviously, he did get that injury against Crystal Palace in May, which was meant to be just a knock. And we're in December now. and he hasn't returned yet. So, yeah, I'm not really too sure when we're going to see Decky again, but obviously I would keep him. And do you know what's going to be really interesting when he's back fit? How you're going to fit Kulusevski, Xavi Simons, and Mohamed Kudus all in the same team. Now, does he play a Simons off the left, Decky in the 10, Kudus on the right, maybe even Kudus on the left, or Kulu on the left, whatever? Like, it's going to be so interesting to see when he's back, and I cannot wait for him to be back. Now, Brennan Johnson obviously scored the best goal in my lifetime. Forever grateful for that, Brennan. I'll be naming my first son after you. However, at the minute under Thomas Frank, he does struggle to get minutes, especially because he's got the likes of Kudus, Xavi Simons ahead of him. And obviously when Kulusevski comes back, he'll be ahead of him. Now, although it's very harsh on Brennan, top scorer last season and whatnot, he just can't manage to get a game in. And saying that, I think it'd be the right thing in the summer to sell him. So, Brennan, I'm sorry, but thank you for Bilbao. But, yeah. Okay, Pedro Porro. Obviously, he's got the attacking outlet and everything. He's improving on his defensive work. Obviously, our first right back on the team sheet. So, I will put him in to keep. However, I do think there's a few aspects of his game, such as his defensive side. I know he does get criticised for that I would improve for Pedro Porro. But he's got that Trent-ish trait, like, with his attacking outlet and everything. Like, he can create goals, he can shoot from far. He's probably got one of the best goal catalogues as a defender in the modern game. So it's a no-brainer, really, to keep Pedro Porro. Now, Jed Spence, Mr. Penitentiary, bring me your favourite winger. He'll also go into keep. Now, with Jed, obviously his 1v1 ability is, in my opinion, one of the best in the world. We saw it in the Super Cup, we've seen it throughout the whole season, and especially his ability to play on the left and the right is such a huge thing for us, especially when we've got Doggy who's very injury prone. Jed Spence is able to step into that left back position role, and he's able to create, especially as well, being a right-footed player on the left, he's able to cut in and shoot, cut in and cross, all of that. So it's a no-brainer to keep Jed Spence, and he's going to be starting for England in the World Cup in the summer. So I can't wait to see that. Now, Kota Takai, we haven't seen anything of him, so it's really hard for me to judge him and say, oh, we've got to sell him, oh, he's the first name on the team sheet, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, he got injured in pre-season, and then he's just hasn't made an appearance for the first team. Saying that, he did play in a behind closed door friendly for us alongside Radu Dragishin, so that's his first minutes in a Spurs shirt. However, when he does come back, I do think he will struggle to adapt to Premier League football, just because it's much more physical than he's used to. So obviously, like we like to do with a lot of young players, send them out on loan to adapt to that physicality. Like, you look at the likes of Vuskovic, Mikey Moore, Jamie Donnelly last season, all thriving out on loan. And this season as well, Mikey Moore and Luka Vuskovic shining on loan. So I would loan out Kota Takai in the summer, maybe to even a championship club or a low-level Premier League team. Maybe one of the ones who come up and get promoted, for example. And that would do him the world of good. So Kota Takai, I'd loan you out. Now, Wilson Odobert. Now, he's very young. In his first season, obviously very injury prone, got those 2 hamstring injuries. In fact, he got injured in the game he came back from his first hamstring injury, which was the league phase game against AZ Alkmaar. Now, he struggled to pick up some momentum at the start of the season, but he was on a really good run of form for about 4 or 5 games. And I'm pretty sure if you ask any Spurs fan, they'll say that he had that left wing position locked in. And as we all thought that, he wasn't really getting his opportunity, which was really quite strange. And if he was getting a chance, he'd get like 5 or 10 minutes here and there. So it's quite an odd one with Thomas Frank. However, I would keep Wilson Odegaard because at the minute, because we haven't got a consistent left winger, that spot's open for anyone. So I'd obviously put him in there. Now, Pat Matar is a very similar case because at the start of the season, he was thriving. Our best player in pre-season, our best player in the first few games of the Premier League season, and he even got man of the match away at the Etihad. And then he got a little knock or something like that. And then since then, Thomas Frank just hasn't given him a chance to kind of prove himself in a way. But I still do believe that Pape Sarr is one of our best midfielders alongside Bergvall and Archie Gray. But saying that, when he has been given his chance lately, he has been pretty poor, especially in that game away to PSG. Alright, bear in mind, PSG are one of the champions of Europe, as are we. And yeah, but you even think to James Maddison, if you watch his YouTube video about his ACL rehab, or the first 3 weeks of his ACL rehab, he even said to Pape, like, you're one of my favourite players in the group, and I reckon you can get 15 goals this season. And since he got a little knock, we just I can't even remember when he got it, we just haven't seen him. But saying that, when we have seen him, yet again for the majority of the time, he is quality. So I would put Pape Sarr into keep, which is pretty obvious. Now, moving on to the last final few. Rodrigo Bentancur. Now, we did offer him a new contract. I know since his ACL injury, it's been really touch and go with him. And obviously we've seen a lot of, as the fans like to call it, Bentalinia from Thomas Frank. I do think that there are other midfielders ahead of him in the pecking order. Although saying that, he did really well against Brentford. But I think it's getting to a point with Bentancur where I do think we're going to have to part ways with him. Like, cash him for him whilst we can, because there has been times this season when he's been slow, he's been sluggish, hasn't read the game. If you take PSG away, for example, Vitinha's first goal, I believe it was, Bentancur just moves out of the way. In a Champions League game away to the holders, you're not going to back away. You shouldn't be backing away from something like that. And if you do, it's unexcusable. Like, that's the reason, like, that pretty much led to the reason why we conceded. Like, if he just steps in the way, probably don't concede, go 1-0 up away to PSG at half-time, and it's a completely different game. But I do think it has been harsh because he's been cursed with injuries and suspensions. Like with him, if it's injury after injury after suspension after injury, so his Tottenham career has really been stop, start, stop, start. So I'm sorry, Rodrigo. I'm going to put you into sell. Now, moving on to the next goalkeeper, Antonin Kinski. I am a huge fan of Antonin Kinski. His distribution's next to nothing. Like, he's genuinely, I think that's the right saying at least. If it's not, I do apologise. But he's quality. His distribution's like nothing else. He's genuinely like having another outfield player with his distribution. That's how good he is. If you think to his debut against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup, like, playing pings out of nowhere, breaking lines, solid passing, consistent, like, whatnot. Maybe he can improve on his shot-stopping ability slightly, but that's not really like a flaw to his game. Now, he hasn't had many chances to prove himself this season. In fact, he's only had 2 games. He had Doncaster in the Cup, which he was solid, made a really good save as well onto the post, and Newcastle away, which he did have a difficult game. Now, I would love to see more of Kinski because when we signed him, we were sort of promised that it wasn't just a backup signing. It was more or less like he was coming in to challenge for the number 1 spot. But in order to challenge for it, you need to play. And he just hasn't been playing. So I really hope he gets his opportunity in the future. Now, there's no point in loaning him out because apart from Brandon Austin, we won't have another backup goalkeeper. And if you think to last season where Vicario got injured, Forster got ruled out with illness, so we were forced to sign Kinski. So hopefully, come the end of the season, I would love Anton Kinski to be Tottenham's number one. So I'm gonna put him in keep. Now to the final four. Ben Davies, a very loyal servant to the club, the longest serving player currently at the club, won the Europa League, fully deserved for his service. However, even though he is such a loyal servant, I do think it is time to say goodbye. In my opinion, we should have sold him in the summer, got our money from where we can, even though we did give him a new contract extension, but I do think that was more or less so we can get a value for him. But like this season, I don't even think he's played. And like in the Prem, at least, he definitely hasn't played. Like he's been stop-start with injuries this season, hasn't had a chance to shine. Although he's in Thomas Frank's leadership group, and Frank is a big fan of him, because it's good to have someone like that behind closed doors, who's experienced, knows the game well, and to be a role model for some of the younger players. However, I do think it is time to say goodbye to Ben Davies. Okay, now Mickey van der Ven, fastest player I've ever seen. Genuinely, faster than the Flash. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Obviously, it's a no-brainer to keep him, even though his hamstrings are on life support sometimes. And touchwood, he's been fine this season. Frank's managed to rotate his minutes and share it out between Danso, Romero, and himself, which has obviously saved his hamstrings. But he's this season he's the best centre back in the Premier League for Tottenham, at least. And as well, named vice captain by Thomas Frank. He's added goals to his game. He's got 6 goals in all competitions this season. Got a double away at Everton, and yeah, I know it doesn't sound like I'm saying much about him, but he's genuinely one of those players that just speaks for himself. Like Mickey's he's one of the first names on the team sheet. So yeah, and he's really important to the way we play. So Mickey van der Ven, I'll keep you. Now, final two. Last outfield player, Randall Kolomawani. Now, Kolomawani's he is on loan, obviously. However, in my opinion, he's been our best striker this season because he's got that pressing element, he's got that link-up play, knows how to score goals. That showed it against PSG. However, he's been stop-start with injuries this season. Whether it was the enormous, in period of time, dead leg, a dead leg's only meant to keep you out for 1 or 2 weeks, and for him to keep it out for that period of time is, it's interesting. And then he fractures his jaw, which I don't know how he did it, but now obviously he's playing with the mask, he's like Iron Man with that mask. Do you know what I'm saying? So if it was up to me in the summer, I would keep Kolomawani. I'd sign him permanently, even though it's not my choice. But one thing that does shine out to me was last season when we were in the middle of an injury crisis, things weren't going our way, we approached him and he didn't want to join us. But now all of a sudden that we're European champions in the Champions League, he wants to join us, which is a little bit suspicious. So maybe he's not here fully for the club, maybe he's just here for himself to get minutes before the World Cup. I don't know. But if he is here to play for the club, then by all means keep him because he's been fantastic. And especially if we were to sell Richarlison, it gives you that backup option to Dom Solanke. Although I do think we need to sign another striker just in case because Solanke and Mawani are very injury prone. And now the final player in Super Brandon Austin. Genuinely, he's got the best job in the world. 3rd choice goalkeeper. It speaks for itself. Obviously, he got his opportunities in the Prem and in the Europa League last season, obviously helping us to win the Europa League. I'd keep him. Because in the event that Vicario or Kinski get injured, he offers that backup option. Now, I would like to see more of Brandon Austin. Maybe towards the end of the season, if we've already secured a European finish, or in the Cup, if we play a lower league side or whatever. Although saying that we do have Aston Villa in the Cup, so he probably won't play in that. But it'd be really nice to see him because last season he was really solid when he when he appeared for us. Like on his debut against Newcastle, everyone was writing him off. Everyone was saying he was going to concede a lot of goals. He was solid. He got man of the match on his debut. And obviously in his last game for us, 3-0 win against Elfsborg, he managed to keep a clean sheet. So that would do his confidence the world of good. So, Brandon Austin, I'd keep you. Now, just to summarise things very quickly, in the keep column we have Vicario, Dragoshin, Danso, Polinia, Xavi Simons, Matisse Tell, Destiny Udogi, the best player at the club, Archie Gray, Lucas Bilbao, Christian Romero, Dom Solanke, Mohamed Kudus, Dejan Kulusevski, Pedro Porro, Jed Spence, Wilson Odobert, Pat Matassar, Antonin Kinski, Randall Colomawani, Mickey van der Ven, and Brandon Austin. In the loan column, we do have Kota Takai, and in the sell column, we've got Yves Bissouma, Richarlison, James Maddison, Brennan Johnson, Rodrigo Bentancur, and Ben Davis. So that is who I would keep, loan, sell out of the Tottenham squad. Now, if you want to see something similar to this again, maybe perhaps with players who are out on loan, or maybe even adding in players who I would sign, please let me know in the comments below. But sorry if it sounded like I've waffled on for too long. But thank you for watching today. Make sure you like and subscribe. Turn those post notifications on so you never miss a video. And yeah, come on you Spurs!